Hello guys, welcome to week 7. So this is the week where you're going to take your outline that you made last week, your outline covering your argument paper, and you're going to take your sources and you're going to turn those into a complete argument paper draft. And you're going to do peer review, and then you will turn in final drafts as well, and then you'll be done with the hardest parts of the class. Let's look at this together. First of all, you're watching this video. You're doing that right now as we speak. The next thing here that is the first due date thing that you'll have this week is you will turn in your research paper final draft. This will be due Monday at midnight, and you've had a week to work on it. Just try to make it better. As long as you improve it, you should be able to get a higher grade. If you don't want to turn in a final draft, if you like the grade that you have, you don't have to do it. But don't turn in one that's exactly the same, because that just makes me do work for no reason. Okay, so the next part here is you're going to be drafting body paragraphs. You need to have at least 2 body paragraphs for this paper, and your affirmative body paragraphs, the ones that are supporting your argument, are going to follow the same format that the last one did. So you'll have a topic sentence, and your topic sentence will state the main idea of that paragraph. It'll be covering what that specific paragraph is about. So let's say that your paper is about how nursing burnout is bad because of low staffing and because of harassment from patients. Then your topic sentence might be one reason that nursing burnout is bad is because of low staffing at hospitals. And then you'll have an elaboration section where you will go into more detail about the main idea for that. So this would be where you said that a quarter of nurses quit during the pandemic, and hospitals don't want to pay people any more than they have to, so they're constantly cutting down staff, and that means that everyone's overworked. And then you'd have a piece of evidence here. And your evidence would be something to back that up. A survey maybe that said 90% of nurses felt burnt out, and a bunch of nurses had car accidents on the way home from shifts, or something like that. And make sure to give it a citation or mention the author and title when you're setting it up. And then finally, some explanation or wrap-up, and this is where you sort of bring your main idea of your paragraph to an end, and you say the nursing burnout problem is on the rise, and it's getting worse and worse, and no one in power is incentivized to fix it, right? So, okay. Body paragraphs. So that's regular body paragraphs. That'll be due, let's see, the first is Wednesday. And so will this one. All of these different paragraph ones are all due on the same day, and so is your first draft for your peer review. So the counter-argument paragraph is a little more complicated. This one will be where you show what your opponent says. And very importantly, you also need to show why they're wrong. So you're going to show an argument that your opponent would make, saying that, like, whatever their point of view is and that they're using to counter you. You'll show some evidence from them, and then you will counter that and show your side and show some evidence from your side that shows why they're wrong, right? So there's 6 different parts to this, and you can see I've color-coded this one as well. You need one of these paragraphs at least, but you can have as many as you want. Topic sentence, this one you would have, again, a topic sentence explaining what your opponents would say. So if you're still arguing the same thing as in the last example I gave you, then this one might be something from the point of view of an insurance company or something like that, where you'd say opponents would argue that nursing burnout is actually not that big of a problem. And then you'd go into more detail and you'd be like, nurses are paid really well and they're able to live as upper middle class people a lot of times, and some of them are getting $500,000 a year or whatever. And then you'd have some evidence from them showing that nursing pay has gone up quite a lot since the pandemic, maybe. I don't know if that's true, by the way. I'm just making examples. Make sure to give an in-text citation. Then you have to show your point of view and show why those people are wrong. This is the hardest part because a lot of times you'll have to have two pieces of evidence talking about the same thing. You can use probably one source for this sometimes. But this is where you're going to have to show your side of this. So you'll say why they're wrong about this, and you'll say, actually, the reason that nursing pay has gone up is because they're using a lot of travel nurses, and most nurses haven't seen that much of a rise in pay. And then you'll have a piece of evidence here talking about how travel nurses are getting paid, but that's not sustainable. And then finally down here, you'll just wrap everything up and you'll say, even though some nurses are getting paid more, it's still not helping deal with burnout, and it doesn't matter how much you get paid, burnout is a problem. Something like that. So yeah, you show their point of view, and then you show why they're wrong in your point of view. Last one here is, let's see, intro, conclusion, and works cited. This is exactly the same as what we did before. Your intro is just going to introduce us to your problem, give us some kind of hook or something broad to bring us into your argument. You're going to have a couple of sentences talking about both sides of your argument, and then you're going to have a thesis statement that needs to probably have the word because in it or something like that. Something to say, show that this is an argument. Probably the word should might be in there too. Maybe if we're using the same example from last time, nursing, what would be a good argumentative topic for that? The government should step in to deal with nursing burnout because of why it's bad for the country or something like that, right? The one that I made before would work as well. Nursing burnout is a problem because nurses are understaffed and whatever the other reason I gave was. Okay, so that's your intro. Your conclusion, just like last time, you're going to restate your main idea, and then you're going to have maybe a call to action, maybe putting it in a wider context, something like that. Doesn't need to be very long. And then finally, your works cited page. You should have most of this done already after you did your bibliography. It's just a matter of putting it in here, putting it in alphabetical order, making sure that it's organized correctly, making sure everything's in MLA format. Don't just put a lot of hyperlinks again, just like we said last time. It needs to have MLA format works cited page, and needs to be put together like the drafts that we have. Then you're going to finally have your peer review discussion. This will be the same thing that we did before. By Wednesday at midnight, you need to post a rough draft on the discussion board. So your rough draft needs to have needs to be double spaced in MLA format. It needs to have an intro. It needs to have at least 2 supporting body paragraphs. It needs to have a counter argument paragraph, a conclusion, and a works cited page. And then you'll post that by midnight on Wednesday. Thursday, you will go through 2 of your fellow students' papers, and your fellow students will go through your paper. and answer all of these questions. So, very similar questions to before. What argument did your author choose to make? Did they lay this out well in their thesis statement? At the end of their thesis statement, you should be able to tell what their argument was about, right? So, if we go back to our samples that we had, actually I just downloaded those. So this is our Studio Ghibli example. You should be able to go straight to your thesis statement right here and be able to tell what it's about. This one says, through the use of empowering female leads, not relying on sequels, and dreamy whimsical art, there should be a comma there, that leaves the viewers wanting more. Studio Ghibli is better than Disney. Okay, so that's her thesis statement. Pretty easy to tell what she's talking about, right? If you can't figure that out, make sure to tell your readers that that's a problem. What main points did your author make to support their arguments? Did each have its own paragraph and topic sentence? So in this example, she said empowering female leads, not relying on sequels, and dreamy whimsical art. So we should be able to go into her topic sentences and see those same things. So this first one here talks about empowering female leads. This one talks about not relying on sequels. So she's doing that, right? What counter-argument did your author use? How did she refute, prove wrong this counter-argument? They, rather. So this is her counter-argument paragraph. She said, people who disagree that Studio Ghibli is the best may claim that Disney is superior based solely on how well known it is. Okay, so that's redundant. But you can see what she's going with here. She's going to talk about how popular Disney is and how it gets a lot of credit for that, and then she's going to she's going to go and say Disney is more successful and well known, but Studio Ghibli works to make movies that are unlike the last, with no two films having the same plot or same art style, which can be seen in every one of the classic Disney princess movies. Okay, so she's going to turn that on its head and show why this isn't correct. So that's your answer for 3. If you can't see how they've countered their counter-argument, make sure they're doing that. If you don't see that, make sure you tell them. Did they have evidence for each paragraph? Did they have any paragraphs without evidence? What were the paragraphs and where could they find evidence? So every body paragraph needs to have evidence. This one has David Elrich of IndieWire, and it has supporting her side, and it has an article about how much money Disney makes. This one here has this article, why we think, which we can find down here in her Works Cited page, why we think Ghibli is better than Disney. So make sure that every one of their body paragraphs has a source. They can have them in their intro and conclusion, but they don't need them. All right. Did they have a full Works Cited page? Are they missing anything? Make sure that every source they have up here appears in their Works Cited page. If you see any that aren't down here, make sure you point that out. If you see any of these that aren't complete, if they're just hyperlinks or something like that, make sure to point that out as well. Were there any pieces, or are there any places where the writing seemed to go off the rails? Was there anything that didn't seem important? If they're going off on a completely different issue than their argument, make sure to point that out. Evaluate the writing itself. Is the paper easy to read? Are there grammar issues that you noticed? how distracting were these issues. So again, if you see the same problem happening over and over again, if you see them making lots of comma splices or run-ons or something like that, point it out. If you just see them doing it once, it's not that big of a deal. All right. So they'll give you feedback too. Once you have feedback, go through and complete a final draft, and that'll be due Thursday at midnight. Am I right about that? Is it Thursday or Friday? Friday at midnight. So you'll get yours by Thursday, and then you can turn in a final draft by Friday. Thursday, I'll try to go through these and give you a little bit of basic feedback as well on each one of them. By Friday at midnight, turn these in. I'll go through them over the weekend. Try to make these as complete as possible because you're only going to have a couple of days to turn this around and turn in a final draft. I believe the final drafts are due, let's see, the final drafts are due on the 8th. So you turn these in Friday the 3rd, and then I think Wednesday is the 8th. Yeah, because I have to be able to grade them and get everything in by that Friday. Okay, guys, so that's it for week 7. After this, the hard part's over. You just have a final exam to do and some rewrites, and you'll be done. All right, see you guys in the discussion board.